Welcome to this week's episode of Dismantling Colonial Belief Systems. In fact, we're going to be focusing on this a lot from now on. I have created an entire curriculum of dismantling the patriarchal and colonial belief systems that have ravaged this country since its inception. If you haven't seen my other video, if they're going to take us back, I'm going to go all the way back to the matrilineal cultures. Matrilineal cultures really honored sacred duality, honored life giving, honored life in general. I do have another video that I'm going to be sharing about the gods of death and erotic love that have taken over this culture and made it so prevalent and pervasive in this culture. But today we're going to start with understanding colonialism's role. I am going to be reading off the curriculum page that I made, so if that's bothersome for anybody, you can always ×2 it and just listen to my voice rather than, watching me read this. So the whole objective of this is to identify and dismantle colonial beliefs that prioritize control, exploitation, and dominance, and to reconnect with a more reciprocal and respectful approach to the earth and other beings. Colonialism reshaped the world's understanding of value, ownership, and control. By emphasizing the exploitation of resources and lands, colonial structures prioritized extraction over sustainability, control over harmony, and ownership over community. These patterns persist today, even in personal beliefs about what we own or possess. Examining colonialism's influence helps us challenge ideas of control and reclaim respect for balance. When you personally, I am going to be asking questions throughout this. I would love for you to put them in the comments so that we can actually create a real dialogue here. I think you being vulnerable enough to share your answers will prompt other people to be brave enough to put their own comments. When you think about ownership, what comes to mind? For you, specifically. For me, my goodness, ownership is everything. I own my car, I own my land, I own my stuff, I own my clothes, right? Own, 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 own. What part of the earth do you own? So what comes to mind for you? How do you relate to your possessions, relationships, and the earth itself? Do you own your possessions? Do you own your relationships? As an unschooling, wild schooling mom, I know a lot of parents feel like they own their children. Let me know your thoughts on this. This is really prevalent, right? Or we own our spouses, we own their time, we own them. And this is a lot of something that is going to be digested, right? And then the earth, of course. I mean, look at the way capitalism and our culture is ravishing the earth. We definitely come from a place, whether it's us specifically or not, from a place of ownership of its resources. How were you taught to view the land and resources? Were they to be protected or used freely for personal gain? And if you want to come back to this video and write these down, this could be something that is really important. If you are willing, like I am, to really dismantle patriarchy and colonial views and usher in a new way of living and being, I would love for you authentically to answer these questions. Where in your life do you feel the need to exert control or dominance? And how does that feel in your body? Let's just tap into that. When you feel this ability to control something or dominate something, and look at the dominate culture. I know that there's the 403 crowd that could talk about all sorts of aspects of dominating these really powerful men and things like that, and how there is like this subversive culture of wanting to be dominated. And so when we think about that, where in your body do you feel that? And if you're a people pleaser like I am, being controlled is more apt to what I've felt most of my life, versus there's very few instances that I have of actually dominating over. But either way, there's a very clear energetic signature in these. And I think if we tap into it, it can be really, really powerful. So let me know your thoughts on this. I'm going to be going through this whole curriculum. I'm going to be doing each week just in these little short videos so that we can really get through, tap in, and create some really good insight into what our foundational beliefs and programs are from being in this culture of colonialists and patriarchy. I also am going to be making videos on the feminine wisdom curriculum, so please make sure to press that follow button if you'd like more of this. Thanks for being here. Welcome back to week 1, part 2. If you missed the first part, I will be doing an entire series of how to dismantle patriarchy and colonialism to usher in a matrilineal culture. So we're going to jump right in with the historical context of colonialism and its impacts. Colonialism justified the exploitation of indigenous lands and people, often under the pretext of spreading civilization or quote-unquote progress. Many indigenous cultures held a reciprocal relationship with the earth, seeing themselves as caretakers, stewards, rather than owners. Colonizers disrupted these relationships, instead valuing resources for profit, which led to ecological imbalance and a loss of cultural practices. So we have a few questions to consider with these as well. I would love if you'd be willing to answer these in the comments, at least 1 or 2 of them, and that way others can kind of see our vulnerability and willingness to share, as well as if you do journal or if you're doing shadow work of any kind, these questions are incredible to include into your shadow work practice or your spiritual practice or your meditation practice. First question. Consider how indigenous communities view the earth as a living being. And I would like to just take a moment. I think a lot of us say Mother Earth, but there is a lack of anime, a lack of animation, a lack of aliveness when we view trees and rocks and the water and animals in the patriarchal viewpoint. We see ourselves as higher than, as smarter than, as more conscious, as more alive than often everything around us, including pests, quote unquote, mice, rodents, ants, bugs, funguses, things that are what we've been told needing to be controlled. And so with this question as how does this compare to mainstream views on land? And really looking at and taking the day to look around with the eyes or the perception that everything is alive. Everything has a consciousness. Everything is a spirit. Everything has just as much, if not more, awareness and consciousness than you do. Take the day to do that. What an incredible shadow work aspect and a mirror work aspect to do today. How might adopting a reciprocal rather than ownership-based relationship with nature affect you personally? I know for me, the land that I live on, while I do quote unquote own it, I'm very mindful of the aspect of when we're building, when we're looking at things, when we're looking at trees, of how to be a steward of the trees that are here, how to create space for the trees that are too crowded. Our land has been logged many, many times. And so there's actually a toxicity that has happened on our land of trees growing way too close together. It's actually really harmful. There's a lot of disease in the trees. The roots don't have enough room to spread out. And so looking at things as a steward of how I could actually help and be of service to my land that I get to be a steward of, rather than how it benefits me the most. These are really interesting questions that I have to think about on a daily basis, to how to create more soil, how to be regenerative of my agriculture. When I garden, how am I gardening in a way that is going to benefit not just me and my family, but all of the creatures and inhabitants of my land that I am a steward for? Again, it's so ingrained. My land, my. Notice how many times you say you possess things and you have control over them. And I did mention in my first video my lack of control or dominance. I was really thinking of like dominating others, but I am very controlling. Us, we tend to be. Most women are in their toxic masculine, while most men are in their toxic feminine. I've done many, many talks about this in my previous things. If you'd like for me to go in more detail about that, please let me know. I'd be happy to. Final question. Reflect on a cultural belief that you were taught that may be rooted in colonial thinking. Productivity equals worth or value. How does this belief impact your relationship with yourself and others? So I think it's really important for us to look at how entrenched the programming we are in colonialism. This aspect of really becoming aware. I just said it. Anytime we're saying mine, that was actually one of my first words. I had two older siblings and I was the youngest, and mine was my first word. Very deep entrenched programming. But I grew up in a patriarchal, very colonial household of this aspect of you will do as I'm told, having control over me, a possession over me. And so really looking at this aspect of how can we begin to see our programmings. Just take notice of how many times today you say my, like I'm going to take care of mine, my, rather than this aspect of we are our, this aspect of communal collaborative stewardship. I'm still deprogramming, obviously. You can tell that I still use a lot of these words in my everyday context, and it has taken me decades. I've been working on this for over 20 years already. I'm turning 40. I went directly from high school at 17 into getting a psychology degree, and then I became a Reiki master, got my massage therapist certification, became an herbalist, and now I'm working on my doctorate degree, really implementing and integrating the how to create a culture of sacred duality rather than one that flies in either direction of patriarchy or matriarchy, because we really need to have a new integrative culture that is based on sacred duality. So if you got through this video and you've answered these questions, thank you so much. I do have a Patreon that I'm going to be posting all of these on, as well as the workbooks are going to be available on Patreon. If you'd like to join me over there, please do. Otherwise, keep a lookout for the next videos in this series. Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Matthews with magicalmothering.com. I also have a Patreon under Magical Mothering. If you'd like to join in there, please do. This is week 1, part 3 of identifying colonial programming. Are you ready for this? Because this is some deep shit shadow work. We all need to be doing this shadow work because it is so pervasive. Okay, here we go. Identify a colonial belief. Here we go. Choose a belief you hold about success, ownership, or value. Do you know your value, your self-worth is all wrapped up in colonialism as well? Let's take that, okay? So many of us women have severe codependent aspects, which is also a huge part of patriarchy. We will get into that later. So as a colonial belief, I would like to maybe identify and create some space for our worth and our value. Your self-worth wrapped up in all of this. Trace the source. Reflect on where this belief originated. Family, culture, media, all three, yes. Okay, let's go in. How might this belief support colonial ideas of dominance and ownership? How does it impact your well-being and relationship? Now, I want you to think back when you were a child. Those of us who grew up in patriarchal and colonial households, not ones of reciprocity and collaboration, there is a moment I remember very distinctly around 3 or 4, being told that if I did not accept Jesus into my heart, even though I was good and loving and obedient, I would still go to hell. This is a very real form of dominance and control that colonialism has killed, murdered, massacred, genocided hundreds of millions of people through this belief system. If you were not raised in a Christian or conservative home, you might not have heard this. So you might have heard of things of, you need to be a good girl. You need to be a good girl. You need to be a good listener. You need to do something in order for me to love you. This is a real, real shadow work that we have to get to the bottom of in order to dismantle colonialism. If you ever heard, you need to be blank, it was automatically assumed that you were not going to be loved if you were not this. That is just the second part of it. Because whatever you were just doing was not acceptable. And it's not, I'm hearing what is coming out of my mouth. And I am a radical, wild schooling mom who has spent the past 15 years dismantling my patriarchal parenting styles. So if you're new on this journey and you're getting triggered by what I'm saying, know that there's a trigger there for a reason, because of deep-seated colonialism ownership over children. Take a breath. If you're still here, thank you for being brave enough to do this journey. Thank you for being brave enough to see your triggers and still being willing to move through them, to do the hard work of self-reflection. If we were told as children, you need to be blank before you get anything, there is an inflection that we needed to change who we innately were in order to get love. This is a huge part of colonialism. If you don't become a Christian, you are going to hell. If you're not fill in the blank, then you're not going to be saved. If you're not this, I don't love you. We want to possess and own our spouses, our children, our pets, our land, the earth, our resources. If we can take the time to really look at this in the eye and be honest about where these programmings come from, then if we have ever told that to our own children, we can ask them and share with them that that was not okay. And we can take our own journey and our own healing and present that to them in a form of really doing the work to dismantle those programs. Now, let's go to, let's rewrite that belief. Consider an alternative belief that honors interdependence, not codependence. If you haven't looked into any codependence, there's a really good book called Codependence No More. I'm reading it right now I can get the name if somebody's interested in the author, but it's Codependence No More. Great book on really starting to unravel codependency. Consider an alternate belief that honors interdependence and reciprocity. Reciprocity is not about responsibility, not about accountability, and not about ownership. Reciprocity is a natural receive, share and receive, not give and take. And this is made very clear in Braiding Sweetgrass, that book. She does a fantastic job of really getting really great details of how to understand reciprocity. And so, for example, success means creating balance and mutual respect rather than success means accumulating wealth. My husband and I often talk about the aspect of success to us means an aspect of sovereignty, of really knowing that we control. There we go, right? How do you say sovereign? Okay. Reciprocity. Again, I am going to catch myself through this whole time because I am continuing to do this journey and it's so vital. Sovereignty is really understanding that we as an individual human are our own being. And even that word sovereign, I'm now realizing, is a very patriarchal term because it originally was used for kings and queens, and now we are trying to take that and shift it to meaning our own individual sovereignty, but it still has many aspects of patriarchy. I'm doing the work right in real time with you. So thank you for doing this work together. Okay. How does it feel to let go or to at least be aware of an original belief? Do you feel resistance or a sense of relief? Just for myself, with that word sovereignty, it's something that I've really been building my foundation on the past 2 years, and to know that I'm shattering yet another foundation can feel discouraging, but it can also bring this aspect of, okay, awesome, we're getting somewhere. We're really, really getting somewhere now, right? Really continuing to shatter and do the work. What does this tell you about the influence of colonialism in your life? Imagine a society where this written belief is the norm, where reciprocity or this aspect of interdependence, community. What if community was an actually written belief that was norm without patriarchy and without colonialism? And we're going to continue to unravel what that would look like. But what do you think and feel that would look like for you? Take the time to write out this incredible imaginative aspect of if we truly did live in community. How much easier growing, sustainable, healthy, earth thriving, non polluted food. Think about how many women would be around us helping raise our children. Think about how much easier just the load of labor would be done in a community where we're chatting and singing and collectively creating space to do this together. Imagine this world with me as we continue to dismantle this and work together to create something that is truly magical and new. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you at the next part. Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Bacquet Matthews, and this is week 1, part 4 of Understanding Colonialism's Role in Our Lives. We will be going through this curriculum of dismantling the patriarchy and colonialism, while I will also be implementing videos of how to create, understand, and integrate feminine divine wisdom. And that way we can really get a clear picture of how to create a new world of sacred duality. If you're interested in this, I do have the previous videos here, and let's get ready and jump in. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, in and out, in and out. Visualize yourself standing in a vast open field, surrounded by nature's beauty. Feel the ground beneath your feet on the earth, as if you are a part of it. Now imagine the trees, animals, and even the soil beneath you as a living being with whom you share a bond. You breathe in their energy, and they breathe in yours. There is no ownership, only shared existence and mutual care. As you stand here, feel a release of any desire to control or own this space. Instead, simply exist in it, within, in harmony, as a part of a living whole. How did it feel, or how does it feel, to connect with nature without any sense of ownership? Do any of the thoughts or feelings of resistance arise during this visualization? So, what did these tell you? Come back into this space of just being here with me. Outside of that visualization, wiggle around your fingers and toes if needed to get back into your body. How can you bring this sense of interconnectedness into your daily life? How can this be something that truly amplifies and magnifies your relationship with the complex energies and emotions and world around you, of interconnectedness rather than ownership. If you feel comfortable or brave enough, please share in the comments, or if not, head on over to the Patreon group, follow, or become a patron there and share there in a safe space. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm so incredibly grateful for this journey ahead of us. Welcome back. I'm Stephanie Beckwet Matthews with magicalmothering.com and Patreon under Magical Mothering as well. And we are here for part 5 of Understanding Colonialism's Role, week 1. How is it going? Have you watched the previous videos? Are you getting anything out of it? I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to DM me as well if you'd like to say something that you don't want to share in the comments. I'm open to collective conversations and really doing some deep, meaningful work here. Section 5, or part 5, is all about practical reprogramming. We're going to identify one area of resource use. This could be food, water, land, or a material possession that we use. How do you currently use or relate to this resource? Write what you I would love to hear what you write in the comments, just real fast. Water, land, food, material possession. Write what you're going to be focusing on. Let's consider how this relationship is influenced by ownership or consumption. Ask yourself, how can I interact with this resource in a more respectful and balanced way? When you drink water, is it just there for your use, for you to consume? Do you think about water having a energy or a conscious or a memory? Create a small daily practice for 1 week, for the rest of this week, that honors this resource. Maybe offering gratitude for your food if you already do that. Maybe spend some time maybe recycling if you already do that. Spend some time in nature with respect rather than consuming it or to find refuge in it, and really see as how you can give to nature while you're out there feeling enlivened or recuperated or rejuvenated. Let's ask a couple questions for your journal if you're journaling along with me. How does engaging in a reciprocal relationship with resources change your experiences of them? 2. What insights arise from practicing gratitude or mindfulness with these resources? If you need more examples, let's share our own examples in the comments, and that way we can really get a list going of how we can implement some small daily tasks, such as every time we drink a glass of water, thinking and remembering that water has been scientifically proven to have a memory in it. What memories are we drinking in this water? Are we willing to put our own reciprocity into this water to elevate the mindfulness and memory of that sip of water that we're doing? If you already do things like this, going out into nature and speaking to plants or trees, putting your hand or energy on trees to actually just give them energy. And reciprocity is so natural in nature that they will automatically give you their own energy. Just that's how it is. But if you don't regularly go out into nature to just take, going out into nature and really giving, knowing that we have a reciprocal relationship with nature by just breathing our carbon dioxide, we receive reciprocally the oxygen that they give us. So understanding that every interaction can be reciprocal and not just a give and take aspect, but really one of receiving and sharing. So for the next week, if you're willing, or if you're doing shadow work already, if you do automatic writing or journal work, begin the day with the question, how can I honor rather than own or control what I encounter? And then in the evening, reflect on one moment in the day where you noticed a colonial thought pattern, such as the need to control or consume. How did you respond to it? What would a reciprocal approach look like instead of the way you did respond? And then last, what beliefs about control, ownership, or success do you feel ready to release? How will this shift impact your relationship with yourself and others? And just so you know, all of these questions are going to be in the workbook that is on my Patreon. It's under Magical Mothering on Patreon. There will be a workbook for the week, so if you want to dive into this more solidly or with a flow, all of the videos that I've made for TikTok will be combined into a single video so that you can watch them. And as always, know that you can press my profile picture to 2 times through these videos, as we are going to be covering a lot of information. So I am so grateful that you are here. I'm so grateful for this journey that we're on, and for the wonder and amazement that is going to be truly coming from dismantling these colonial and patriarchy belief systems and implementing new radical divine feminine and reciprocity instead. Thank you and have such a blessed day.